Hello and welcome to this edition of The Verified with me, Mustapha K. Darboe. Today I have the second female person on this podcast. In the name of Ida Persson, I mean, it's a shame I am saying that. But yeah, I mean, it's a good thing too. It shows I'm improving. Ida, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mustapha. It's a pleasure and an honor to be the second woman sitting in this chair.
Yes. The first one was Westminster Foundation, Jabu, I think, and the second one. And yeah, I mean, you are basically the head of the Post-TRRC division of the Ministry of Justice. It's a huge responsibility. It's almost becoming a ministry of its own now. Within a ministry. First, I mean, so we know you playing a coordination role, but also a lot of different things. I mean, tell us briefly what your daily routine is like.
Sure, thank you. I wear two hats. Sometimes I'm the special advisor to the Honorable Minister of Justice. So we discuss bigger issues, strategize, seeks advice, not just from me. I think I've mentioned there's an ecosystem in place, really. Civil society form a huge bulk of the opinions formed and the way forward. But then in another hat, my day-to-day, yes, is coordinator heading the Post-TRC Unit. It is still a unit within the Ministry of Justice, that's true. But I agree with you in the sense that the program is so broad and it cuts across the work of 59 institutions, national institutions in the Gambia, busy implementing the recommendations that came out of the TRRC's report and the government's white paper response to it. Day to day, there is a small team in place. And what we do, essentially programmers, right? We are custodians of this implementation plan. We ensure that the entities that are implementing have the required resources to continue on with implementation. That's both financial and technical as well. So we do a lot of resource mobilization, looking for grants and so on. We build partnerships. We try to connect the dots as well. So we hover above in that way and try to ensure that every single day we are moving forward. Whether fast, whether slow, but that we're moving forward in the implementation of the TRC recommendations.
So you oversee activities from the Reparation Commission, from the also what's going to be happening at is it the special
accountability
mechanism?
Yes.
And the third one would be there's reparation, there's that, and there's
well, there's 5 actual streams of activities we could categorize. Yes, reparations. Yes, or rather 4. Yes, justice and accountability, which isn't just in the Gambia the issue of prosecuting, but we also have the issue of bans. Those are the 2 activities, types of activities on the justice and accountability. We have reforms, which is huge, so we can break it down into 2. Both the institutional reforms, which in the case of the TRC touched on the NIA and the prisons, and essentially the justice sector as a whole, right? So we have those 3 areas of institutional reforms, and we have legislative reforms, about 39 activities involving over 22 pieces of legislation have been recommended for some form of legislative reform. And then we have activities around social cohesion and peace building as well, setting up a peace committee for the Kermotali situation and so on. And the TRC's recommendation is for us to have a permanent institution that's working on peace and reconciliation. So these are all the areas of implementation that the Post-TRC unit is coordinating. Yeah.
So let's begin first with the issue of prosecution, judicial justice. We know there are going to be two institutions that are going to be concurrently established. The Special Criminal Division, which is going to be mainly domestic, dealing with lower level crimes, if you can call a crime low level, but and you will have a hybrid internationalized court, which is going to be sitting on ad hoc basis, no?
Well, as the cases are presented to it, yes.
Yeah.
But because it's international crimes, you don't want to start and stop. You tend to want to have all the people reigned at the same time and have the process as swift as possible, because it costs a lot of money to keep that kind of court and facilities open. Yeah.
So that's why you are working on the establishment of this Office of the Special Prosecutor.
Yes, which is the third element of the special accountability mechanism. I'm sure you've heard me talk about it before. We've met in many forums. I describe it as the triangle, right? That there's three components. The Special Prosecutor's Office has the investigative and prosecutorial powers. It's an independent office. In many instances, when we design post-conflict criminal accountability systems, the Special Prosecutor's Office is built as a unit within an international tribunal. But we pulled it out of the body, almost pulling a heart out of the body, and said, no, we're going to create it as a local independent office in the Gambia. And why that was done is to ensure that justice is swift. As you know, it's going to take possibly up to $60 million to get the international court up and running. That means that this office would have been captured in that process. If you don't get 60 million, it doesn't start. But by pulling it out and ensuring that there's a domestic court that can hear cases, I mean, the yearly cost of the office and the domestic cases are about 2.5 million. So there's a big difference. It just allows justice to start and to be moving forward without being captured by a larger entity. But it's necessary to have the entity that also hears international cases and international crimes. Because otherwise, what you risk having is a situation where, like you said, the low-level perpetrators and low-level crimes are heard, and then people go, but what about, yes, exactly. What about crimes against humanity if they were committed here, or enforced disappearance, which we certainly believe were committed here, and torture and those kinds of crimes. So you don't want to create an ecosystem whereby by working on justice, judicial justice, you're actually creating a greater sense of impunity.
When are the wheels at this particular Special Prosecutor's Office going to start rolling? I mean, because it's being...
They've been rolling. They have been rolling, yes. April 2024, the act was passed. And it's at that point where the Ministry of Justice, being the line ministry for this office, started working to ensure that it's operationalized. So with such a unique mandate, such a sensitive one as well, in our context, 69 people have been recommended for prosecutions. Now, I'm sure for any average Gambian looking down that list of 69, you probably recognize a name or their neighbor or something like that. So insulating the office, ensuring that from the onset it is seen as autonomous, independent, is absolutely paramount. So the way to ensure that is that the person that heads the office, that has all the powers under the Act, the special prosecutor themselves, that they're recruited under a really, really rigid, independent, fair process as well. And so the Act prescribes under Section 23 how that is going to be done. So just to say, since April 2024, for about a year, the independent selection panel under Section 23 of the SPO Act has been meeting. They had developed the terms of reference of the positions for special prosecutor, the special prosecutor's deputy, and the head of investigations, as well as the chairperson of the fund. So these 4 positions are seen as the most sensitive, put it that way. So they've developed the terms of reference, they've advertised, they've received the applications, and they have eventually selected the candidates they believe should be considered for special prosecutor.
For all these positions?
No, not for all the positions. They stopped with special prosecutor. Why? Because the Act says that the special prosecutor should be involved in the recruitment of the deputy and head of investigation and the chairperson. Right? So whilst all those positions have been prepared, no selection has been made until the special prosecutor comes on board.
So when were we likely to have the special prosecutor?
Well, I'm sure you've seen it in the news. Word's been going around. Yes, very, very soon. The person is soon on board. I do not want to take it away, and I will not take it away from the Honorable Minister. This is his hard work and his ministry's hard work. So I'm sure very soon There will be
You'll
an
be the one to
announcement.
say who this person
Yes,
is.
who this person is, their background, and so on.
And is there an emphasis on Gambians being in these institutions, or deputy maybe, for example, or other institutions, or other?
It's one of the things I love about transitional justice in the Gambia, starting from the truth-seeking process, right? That it has been a very Gambian-led process. We have really ensured that we're designing things that are fit for our own context. So absolutely, as a policy, it's Gambians first and international only where necessary. Yes, international only where necessary.
So, I mean, do you have an idea, I mean, or a timeline as to when likely we are going to have the court up and running? Because, of course, I said this because I know the amount of work that's going to be done in preparation for trial.
Yes.
It's a huge task.
It is. It is a huge task. It's true the TRRC held hearings, did investigations, and did it to the best of their ability, certainly. But what they have given the Ministry of Justice and its custodian of is information at the end of the day. Yeah, it's to be determined really whether it could be considered evidence. So that's sifting through all those TRRC boxes, the reports, listening to all the hearings and so on to decipher whether this could be evidence or not. And just to be on the safe side as well, evidence is also very much about how it's collected. So if that cannot be determined, then the recollection of that evidence as well. So you're right, in 69 cases, we had 393 witnesses before the TRRC, 23 hearings. So it is a lot of work that needs to be done. That is true. You ask about timelines, and I don't want to predict something. I think we really should wait for the special prosecutor, who will be in soon. I'm talking, month or two or so, to have some time.
Well, you failed the first deadline. You said it would be announced in February. That was the last press release from the ministry.
And
February has passed.
That is true. We were quite hopeful that the first runner-up would accept, but these things do happen. Personal issues get in the way, and so when they didn't accept, and it had to go to the second runner-up, it took a bit more time to negotiate terms and conditions and so on. I hope we're not doing too bad. It's March, and like I said...
Yeah, it's March, and soon March will end, and soon we will be in a much tense political climate as we head towards the elections.
Yes, elections are peculiar everywhere in the world. It's true that governments tend to slow down and services tend to slow down, and everybody waits to see what the outcome of an election would be. But I'm certainly confident that this office would have started its own operations before that and would be insulated from it, will be busy with the work that it has to do.
But at this point, we don't have a clear idea as to what sort of timelines because, I mean, for example, the Special Criminal Division of the High Court, the judges are already appointed.
Yes, and they have been doing work. It's a criminal division of our High Court. The judges have been hearing serious cases before them right now. For example, is the Sana Manjan case. So what should I say? It's not spilt milk. It's a division that clearly was needed in the Gambia, irrespective of the special prosecutor's office. But yes, I agree, they are waiting. I was going to say in terms of timelines that it's a new office, and so like every other office, whether it was the Reparations Commission, the TRRC itself, the Post-TRRC Unit, which is just a unit, it's the same administrative processes that you're going to have to go through. And we have seen that on average, they're taking about 3 to 6 months to really you start feeling their activities. The commission, the Reparations Commission, the commissioners were sworn in April, and by December of last year, they had started with the compensation payments. So the timelines that are in place are pretty standard for any new office, really. And it's mostly about accessing your budget, doing your first recruitments, procuring your initial equipment, and so on. Having a think through, being visited by civil society, by experts, having a bit of a vision before you go out. So it's typically about 6-month window there where the office seems to be dormant, but is doing a lot of that setting up work.
And are we expected to have a new court complex for these processes?
Yes,
and because I don't see any one being built, or is there?
Oh yes, the government of the Gambia is receiving financial support through UNDP, the donor being the European Union, and the project called the EU UNDP Great Project. So since last year, the government had allocated a plot of land where architectural designs have been made together with members of an advanced team to the Special Prosecutor's Office. So our partners have been coming in. The advanced team was in place thanks to Democracy International, initially with funding from the US Department of State, but that was cut. Yes, exactly. Later, Justice Rapid Response with some funding from Canada. And the point of the advanced team is it was an 8-person team, and they were kind of setting up the interim structures of the Special Prosecutor's Office. So what would witness protection look like? They came on the field, did their assessments and said, okay, a witness protection unit should consider A, B, and C. This is where I would start. This is how I'd cost it. This is what I'd prioritize. Investigations, there was also a person that did that sort of pre-assessment. And all of this, hoping that when the special prosecutor receives their report, it helps them to be quicker in making certain decisions about the setup. But yes, a physical structure is being built.
But these guys you are referring to, are they the folks I met there 2 weeks ago? Because I did come to your office 2 weeks ago and I saw some couple of people walking around with boxes of papers and...
All right. No, I don't think it was them. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so the issue of, of course, a new office is, a new court complex is being built. But if you look at TRRC, the evidences that we're going to be, the kind of cases that we're going to be having, some dates back, you could say now 30 years,
yeah,
some
94.
dates back 20, 25 years, 19, or even a decade is too long. And you, the issue of capacity, it's a lot of, it's a lot that we required. And the Gambia Police Force has one forensic person. How do we deal with that? Are we going to reach out through our international partnerships, try to recruit more people and things like that?
Yeah. Well, let's just say that there's rarely ever a process or an office that has everything in place, irrespective even of how well financed it is. And this is the role of the coordinators. We have to build partnerships, and there's a lot of work, and it's not me alone. A group of people, including ECOWAS, including civil society, the Gambia Bar Association, AVLO, the victim-led organizations, where we think about these issues. And we essentially believe that we need to make sure that in whatever we do, we're accessing 4 streams of possibilities of support to the Gambia. The first stream is political. Irrespective of what a partner can do for us, just them agreeing that the way we have thought about post-conflict criminal liability in the Gambia, the special accountability mechanism, just selling that is really important. Even if at the end of the day they say, but just believing that, you know what, you're on the right track. You have considered A, B, and C. So the political support is very important, but hoping very much so that the political support does translate into one of the others, okay? There's voluntary fund contributions, which I call DEPAS, right? It's the most fluid, it's cash. It's the most difficult as well to receive because it requires a country, a member state, going back to their taxpayers and convincing them why they should take their tax money and give it to the Gambia, right? And that takes sometimes years to work on. And it's the most difficult, especially as we can see more and more taxpayers rather their money that be spent on their education or their health, you know. And we see the questioning of this whole rules-based world that we've lived in. And there's a third area of support, which is programmatic, where a donor would rather give it to an implementing entity to implement on behalf of the Gambia. And that's projects and programs. And that's where we thank the EU for giving the funding to UNDP, OHCHR, and other partners, and DI. That's programmatic. We need that kind of support as well. And then finally, technical assistance. Technical assistance is going to go a huge way. It's where a member goes back to their national authorities and say, can we send the lawyers? Can we send investigators?
Investigator,
forensic,
FBI,
exactly.
maybe,
and they take on the cost of that individual.
Yeah.
Because in every institution, what is always most expensive is the human resources. Everyone, yeah. What you spend in salaries.
We already have a foundation for that kind of thing with Nigeria, Sierra Leone.
Yes,
within
we
our
do.
judiciary.
We do have some technical assistance agreements that are in place that we can already tap into, but we'll have to create some new ones as well. So when you said that the portfolio is broad, it is very broad, and the effort that's required, in particular for resource mobilization, is very, very deep as well.
We are, I mean, I'll come to some of the other things more specific. Like you've made mention of something that's very interesting that I just want to, ask one question about before we move on. And that's the issue of the political climate. I know that you guys are focused on the work, but also you are also working within a climate, and that climate is political, and things can be very tense sometimes. We have seen a very dramatic shift in the tectonic plates, as it were, of the Gambian politics.
Right.
And that has not made our transition very easy. You could see mergers, the most complex of mergers happening. And right now there are even talks that some other opposition parties might also form alliances with No 2 Alliance, which is Jammeh's own party. You have NPP with its own APRC, which had previously campaigned that TRRC reports should be trashed. A lot of complex situations. And you don't have to just navigate working with the government, but you also have an audience in the opposition. So it's like a very complex political climate. How do you navigate that?
Well,
considering you're also an advisor to the minister,
yes,
who is also a politician.
Yes.
In a way.
Yes. As complicated as the political climate is, there's something about our transitional justice process that also makes it very simple to navigate, which is that it's a program that came from the people. It's one that, irrespective of party lines, political affiliations, we all as Gambians have always required for this process to take place. So it's very people-led. In 2017, when the transition began, you'd recall there were national consultations happening all over the country. And so this was a demand of the people, of the population. Irrespective of party lines, we all conglomerate on the fact that it's important for us to look back and to see where we went wrong and to ensure that we rectify as much as possible those wrongs, rectify the laws, prosecute people that are found the most wanting, repair people. So the transitional justice program has been really people-led in the Gambia as well. And really, in that sense, as politically complicated it can be at times, when you really boil it down to the jus, I find that we are all agreeing. And I see it reflected in Parliament, which is really, the mirror of our Gambian society, our Parliament, our National Assembly, which is that we haven't had yet a piece of legislation come before them, TJ in nature, that hasn't been passed, that hasn't been agreed on, whether it's the Special Prosecutor's Office, the Special Accountability Mechanism, the Reparations Commission, the Torture Act. They have all the ban from Public Office TRRC Act. Parliamentarians have all said, no, this has to continue. We started this journey. Let's see it through to its logical conclusion.
Do you think the fact that these frameworks themselves also have their own protection within a pieces of legislation or a piece of legislation sort of helps in sort of insulating it also from political interference?
Well, eventually you introduce legislation for exactly that reason, to insulate it, to make it a powerful process in of itself, to inject it with power through financing coming also now requiredly from the government as well. That is true. So strategically, it's a good way to protect transitional justice for the years that it continues being implemented in the Gambia. But ultimately, like I said, it is a portfolio that I believe we conglomerate around much more than we run away from. And it is during the conglomerations that we have our disagreements, but we're still around the table. We're still trying to reconstruct the Gambia, or some would say construct for the first time. There are arguments in society that the Truth Commission was possibly the most instrumental societal experiment of who are we as Gambians. You know, that even during our independence and our forefathers coming together to ensure that we received independence, that process was still quite male-led, Combo-led, and not really an entire Gambia, struggle, put it that way. But the TRRC, the post-TRRC process is this first time. There have been those arguments. I leave it to the academics to discuss further. But I'm saying that it's still something that's very powerful, that unites us.
I see that kind of echo even in when folks try to explain the 1981 coup.
Right.
A lot of people died, some estimated to be around 1,000. And there are still people who think that we haven't adequately fixed issues that happened back in the era.
Absolutely. And I mean, study of transitional justice everywhere in the world tells us precisely this, Mustapha, that when people live together and they don't create a narrative of who they are and what happened to them, then they are not unified. And without that unification, nothing is possible. Without unification, the peace that we talk about that is necessary for development is not possible. So unification for me is something that I think we need to further discuss in the Gambia. We still have to talk about who are we as Gambians. Yeah.
Where does ECOWAS, where is ECOWAS in this whole thing? I mean, right now we're about to, I almost said we're about to establish the hybrid code, but I mean, I would say maybe we are about to. Where is ECOWAS within this whole thing?
Well, again, it's about we just talked about identity and unification, right? So if you look at our families, we're also part of this West Africa region, and we do have a shared history and so on. We know that some of the people that were murdered during the previous regime, the West African migrants, came from the ECOWAS region as well. But also legally, when it was realized, and again, a lot of kudos to Gambian civil society, the Bar Association, for going out there, seeking the resources, former President Sall at the time, but continuing now with Ms. Cham as well, seeking the resources, the brains to come together to allow us to design a post-TRRC criminal accountability system, realizing that it might be tricky for us to prosecute enforced disappearance and so on. So then comes automatically the assumption that we're going to have to create an internationalized process. And I mean, it's now jurisprudence that in order to do that, you must enter into an agreement with an international organization, right? Or selected member states to create an international organization. That's how you do it. That is the recipe. So just when the time came to look at the international organizations we could go to, yes, the United Nations, yes, the African Union, but it just made more sense to say ECOWAS. Why not? Some of the victims and survivors, their family members are in the community. We're part of that community. It's closer to home. And it allowed as well another novelty. For the first time, ECOWAS has created an international criminal accountability process, you know. We have the Malabo protocols that's supposed to transform the mandate of the African court into one that looks at criminal accountability. And it seems like ECOWAS, having decided this, is testing that theory already, you know? Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of getting Jammeh, I mean, for example, he's in Equatorial Guinea, he's enjoying himself, occasionally releasing WhatsApp audios. Now he has stopped. I think the last time they warned him probably might have worked effectively anyway. But do you think the region could play a role in that? Or do you think that is still a very far-fetched dream?
Yeah,
Or you think he might be trying absentia?
I don't know. I'm not a prosecutor.
But you're not thinking about those possibilities also?
You know, we're going to get the special prosecutor to come and talk to you. Because what he thinks about these things are much more important than what Ida Persson thinks. Ida Persson has to find the funding for the tribunal to do. But having said that, this is what I know. Because once upon a time, I was a prosecutor. And the long arm of justice is really very, very long. And from where I have sit, I haven't for a split second hesitated at the will that is presented before me. I would be shocked if that was no longer the case. So with the will, with the ambition, with the way that we've been going in the Gambia, thinking through things together, doing everything together, moving forward, like I said, even if slowly, then knowing what I know about the long arm of justice, it would be very difficult not to predict that everyone that should face justice would do so, inshallah, right? We don't also know what happens in the future, people's health and so on. But in terms of the strategy, how and so on, it's really to be decided by those that are best informed. And that's the special prosecutor and his office, yeah.
Okay.
But there are many, many possibilities. There are many possibilities, like you said.
But if the region's power is at play, it's probably much easier.
If the region's power is at play, yes. And that's why for an international tribunal, an international backing is there. I should share the statute of the special tribunal so that you see it binds the member states of ECOWAS to cooperate with any decision of the special tribunal. So if a judge says extradite and Jammeh happens to be, or anybody else, you know, happens to be in those member states, it binds them. You know, they're bound to enforce the decisions of the tribunal, for example. Now, he's not, as far as we last checked. He's in another country. But that's why I talked about how when you're mobilizing resources to do something, we often forget that first one, the political support that you need. The more the world knows about the Gambia's SAM, the more the world knows about our efforts, the more they understand that this isn't about witch hunting or anything. This is really a society that's trying to come to terms with its past and giving itself the best chance of doing so, the more likely we will get support when we ask for that, even politically as well.
And considering also the ECOWAS, a lot of the ECOWAS members have also vested interest in this, considering who Jammeh is a person of interest in some of the murder cases that, you know, the killing of their citizens.
Mustapha, I think it would be one of our greatest mistakes as Gambians to boil down our entire special accountability mechanism, our entire transitional justice program to an individual, to a person. It's much, much bigger than that, right? So to say that everybody's helping and we're all doing this just for one person, I don't think so. I think it's much, much more. But I do, of course, appreciate certainly, and it's very important that those that bear the greatest responsibility face also the greatest consequence.
Yeah.
I think for me that is natural justice.
Because even if you find one person or two persons who bear the greatest responsibility pay for a crime, you could establish some satisfaction, because in any case, anyone who is affected can see their own satisfaction in those two people. And you would have to you may save a lot of money.
Yeah, this is going to be a very difficult decision. You know, like I said, there's a list before the special prosecutor with 69 names. and the strategy that he chooses to get all, to get some, to get only the top.
But does he have to discuss this with anybody? Let's say, for example, if you are the president, does he have to discuss this with you?
No, this is an independent office. He doesn't require
That's very
that.
unsettling for me, because the president also has a responsibility
But
in the political consequences of prosecution.
yes, but this is an independent office that has been entrusted by the president. The special prosecutor is appointed by the president per the act. And once that's done, having entrusted that they have been recruited through a very thorough, I mean, a 1-year process, you know, you entrust the person with the decisions they have to make. You cannot interfere. Yeah.
And you know, already we have some, I mean, junglers in the country. I mean, there have been a number of concerns expressed by a lot of people when these people are not in custody. But they are not more worried about them being in custody because they don't seem to also have any interest in running away anyway. But their health, and there are people who have expressed concerns over their health. And we know already 2 people have died. Yes, I think Chairman Amadou Badji and Bora Koli, I think.
Yes, exactly.
And I think there is a 3rd one, I can't remember. But I mean, essentially 2 people have died. I mean, are you guys also concerned about this? Are you guys working around how to keep these people alive?
It is a concern, certainly. For prosecutions, you do need all your witnesses to be alive, well, and hopefully cooperating as well. And similarly for accused persons, because trying one in absentia after they've passed, it does also reduce, you spoke about satisfaction, right? Similarly for reparations as well. When a victim or survivor has passed away, it really reduces the whole purpose of reparations. It's a huge loss to the family. It's a huge loss for the state having the obligation to repair them whilst they're alive so they can enjoy it. So it is a concern. Yes, the government does monitor the health and those individuals as well on a regular basis. I think we can do better maybe in ensuring that the facilities are more available to them. And you know, this is why anything worth working on is difficult, because it's not black or white. And there was a time it was just so simple to name people as bad, a perpetrator, a monster, and for that reason you get nothing from society, right? And I think sometimes those kinds of ideas actually reduce the bigger picture, which is irrespective of what category you're being named, you should be kept alive and healthy, and those social services should be available to you. So I think some
because
of
those
these
people, you also need them to be able to, suppose for example you're not prosecuting the 5 junglers who TRRC deem cooperative. You're going to still need them if you are to prosecute any high-ranking official out there. In a lot of cases. So these are very valuable people.
And I appreciate how the more we talk about these issues openly, opinions have started to shift as well. I mean, I recall a few years ago the idea within the victim community that certain perpetrators would receive medical services through the same medical board that victims are able to approach was unthinkable. Was absolutely not, you know, they don't deserve it. But more recently, we've seen the civil society, the victim-led organizations working more with the family members of perpetrators, and have even started voicing concerns about the health, about the alleged perpetrators. So, yeah. But definitely, I think we can do more. I think it's one of the most urgent tasks for the special prosecutor to ensure that all of those people are kept well enough to cooperate with the judicial process.
Have you determined how many of the junglers are currently in jurisdiction and how many are?
It is known, not to me, not to me.
But it's known.
It is. Like I said to you, there is a check regularly on those people. They are people of interest naturally, I mean, especially after having come before Truth Commission and on your own vocation spoken as openly about.
But also their safety. I mean, because there are a number of them who, I mean, that's the issue of maybe probably witness protection come into play. I mean, you have Oya, for example, during his testimony, he did say that, I mean, the junglers have attempted to lure him to around Kanilai. His own understanding of it was that they wanted to kill him. Because, of course, these are black box, so to speak, of the Jammeh regime, essentially.
It's a shame that we have to be concerned about these issues, but it's not a surprise. Every judicial process has some experience with witness protection. We just need to make sure that in our case we're improving it. And that's why I said that once the Special Prosecutors Act was passed, and so we know we're having these investigations, we're having prosecutions in the Gambia. The first request that was made by the Ministry of Justice was for this advanced team to already come, not wait for the prosecutor to be in place, but for them to already come and for them to design programs on how best to do this. Witness protection is extremely important because the Gambia is a very small place. We've had a truth-seeking process before. Communities are very, very intertwined. So it takes a lot of thinking, and there has been quite a bit of thinking around that as well.
I mean, the amount of money you need for this is colossal. I mean, the reparations alone, you still have, I mean, we are not even talking of the new people who are going to be listed by the commission. Currently, what you have in unpaid areas is on the ordered reparation that's determined by TRRC is over 100 million, because there's only 17 million that's been so far paid. You have 60 million budgeted for the courts, and you have 150 million for the recommendations. Of course, we know some of the recommendations are implemented. I will come to that. It doesn't seem like a very lot has been implemented so far, but how do you work around this? I mean, considering, I mean, the U.S. has closed its tap, a lot of other organizations.
Yeah, well, maybe just to go back to the figures and the difference between a budget and a cost estimate. So the budget is when the institution itself and the people working around the issues come up with it. So they're really on the ground, and that should be, understood as a very good estimate of what things will cost. So we now talk about the budget of the Reparations Commission, the budget of what the TRRC shared with the Commission as well. But there's still the element of cost estimates for the Reparations Commission, which is those costs that are yet to be determined. Because like you said, 1,009 victims is what they're working on now. But they also have a mandate to find more victims. And with those more victims, the Commission has to put in place its policy on how it will pay, what will it pay, right? And we're just talking about compensation here. We haven't gotten to the issue of rehabilitation, the medical, we haven't started speaking about restitution. They haven't decided yet whether they will be communal. So it's to be determined. It's to be determined. And so when colleagues and others say, but then at the same time, the government is going to spend $60 million on justice and accountability. Why not give that to reparations? I just wanted to say that we don't know yet what the cost of reparations is going to be. It's still being determined by the Commission. We really wait to hear from them. But already what we know budgeted, right? It's quite a lot already, and there's some deficits. And when it comes to the justice and accountability, similarly, it's not a budget. It's a cost estimate, and a cost estimate has been developed by people outside of the process, anticipating. So it's a different view.
If so it can go up or come down?
Absolutely. It can go up, it can come down. Those people that start actually working on it, the special prosecutor, can say, no, you know what, I'm going to take a slower and longer process. We will not do more than 10 cases a year. We'll work on a small budget. We'll do 10 cases a year, but we will operate for 10 years. Or they'll say, no, we're going to do everything so it's really, again, kind of to be determined. sorry, I missed your question now
No,
as I'm
I
explaining
mean,
the cost and so on. But what you're essentially getting at is, where is all this money going to come from? Where is all of this money going to come from? So it has to come. It has to. When you look at our economy, it has to come from partnerships, right? And so when we went back to our discussion about how working on all of those 4 streams is so important and to work very deeply, absolutely. When you look at our prioritization of our national budget, $30 million in 2026 was allocated for the Reparations Commission. 20 towards the fund itself, which would go directly to victims, and 10 towards the operations of the office. When you look at the Special Prosecutor's Office, 10 million has been given to the Special Prosecutor's Office fund. So when victims in particular say that, why don't they take the money for justice and put it in reparations, that's our main priority. I think even the national budget is also indicating to you where government is prioritizing to put its own money into, or our own taxpayers' money into, and its reparations. And so with the justice one, we're really banking on the international community, our regional friends, our partnerships to come through. That is going to be critical.
But are you thinking of it in a way so that some people are donating human resources?
Yes,
some are
technical
donating equipment,
assistance. Absolutely.
different things, different layers,
Absolutely.
so that it's not just money.
Yes, absolutely. It's a bit of hebundara, you know. Even if you say you don't have equipment, you don't have money, but you understand, you support the initiative, and you can mention it in your bilaterals with other countries, then that's good. We'll also take that. We'll take that political support. There is a specific forum called the Partnership Platform that works on resource mobilization. When I said to you, this isn't just my job, but that we've built structures in place that are actively looking for all types of resources. The Partnership Platform meets at an ambassadorial level. That's where a lot of the political moving forward happens. But there's also a technical committee to it, where those partners have been put around the table, and we've been identifying which one of our partners can eventually give us technical assistance, which ones can give us capacity building, and so on. But the support has to come through. Otherwise, we will struggle if we're to fund this entirely on our own. That is the reality.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's because, you know, Mustapha, transitional justice, all of this is not happening in a vacuum. We have our children that have to go to school. Our hospitals need to also be stocked and so on. Exactly. So transitional justice is an added encumbrance. And all the more reason we have to also start talking as a nation about our exit. You know, we're going into 10 years, so we have to also start saying that we have to continue working on the issues, because we can determine that these issues are long-term issues. We are reconstructing, but how we package it, our expectations towards it, I think we need to start rethinking.
The issue of the, we already know, for example, in the Reparations Act, you've already spelled it out that part of the sources of the fundings for reparations is going to come from Jammeh assets. And, you know, this is a subject matter that's been discussed at different levels. Are you following the National Assembly inquiry into the sale of Jammeh assets?
Yes.
Sort of trying to see how you may be able to convince politicians to mobilize more resources, and from where they could mobilize some bit of resources, because it may be useful to you.
No, but absolutely. The acts of both the Reparations Commission, as well as the Victims Reparations Act, as well as the Special Prosecutor's Office Act, both of them establish funds. And for both of those funds, legitimate sources of monies include the sale of former president's assets. So yes, I have followed the process, because this is a potential area to also mobilize more funding. Yeah, for both reparations and for prosecutions.
Because aside from being, providing technical advice, you also play some kind of political role, as it were. I mean, where you sort of reach out to some other players. I mean, that's how I imagine your job. For example, probably some select committees in the parliament to see how you may be able to, attract more resources to.
Actually, I don't. I advise the government.
So you just stop at advising the minister?
I do, yes.
You don't act outside of the... Because I suppose your office is also independent now.
No, we are a unit within the Ministry of Justice, yes.
So it will be the Special Prosecutor's Office that will be independent totally?
Absolutely, just as the Reparations Commission is independent totally.
Yeah.
And the Reparations Commission and commissioners may have audience with the National Assembly, without a doubt, to discuss their budget and so on. Yeah, but this idea, I'm seeing it more and more so about, oh, you're political. Oh, this is how you know that it's definitely an election year, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you have to find a way to deal with politics. I mean, it's like you're operating in a minefield.
As an adult, if you think that you are somehow not operating within a political environment, then good luck. We all are, on all sorts
true.
of levels.
Even I am.
Yeah.
Even I am.
But it is a structured process. It is the government of the Gambia, the one that is in place, that is implementing the recommendations of the TRC. And it's the government that has established this coordination unit that is acting as a secretariat to the implementation process. So we really are a unit that is working for the government. Of course, to do that, to give the best advice, we have to work together with every other player, every other actor in it, So I keep on talking about the role of civil society because it is something that is very special about the way we work in the Gambia as a government and civil society, how we bank on each other's knowledge and advice and pool together resources as well. Yeah, definitely.
So the issue of the recommendations, implementation of the recommendations so far, that's been monitored by the National Human Rights Commission. I mean, in the last report, they said that that was the early 2025.
Yes, May 2025.
Yeah, so they said somewhere, I think around 16 fully implemented recommendations?
No.
Or now it's 22?
No. Would you like to have the history of this? Okay.
Yes.
It's the 2024 report that was reporting still on recommendations and said 16 had been completed and that 94 or so were ongoing and so on. But
192, I think.
192 were ongoing, exactly, and 55 had not yet started. Recommendations. But the Secretariat, my unit, we have been engaging with the National Human Rights Commission since 2024 to say that they need to adjust, in our humble opinion. Now, they're an independent institution, they have an independent mandate. They could have listened and said, no, forget it. But what we believe is that a plan is first set by those that are implementing the plan, and then you take the plan and you monitor the plan. Now, in all fairness to the Human Rights Commission, they started their monitoring already in 2023, before the implementation plan was put in place. So the only thing they could monitor was the TRRC report and recommendations. So the first report came out to talk about the number of recommendations. The second report also continued with the number of recommendations. But the moment the Secretariat was established, we made it a point to approach them and said, I think you should monitor the plan.
Based on the plan,
And the plan has translated all the recommendations into activities, because the plan is a program.
And it put a timeline to it.
Exactly, a timeline, who has to implement it, and so on and so forth. So now they have transformed their reporting structure to report on activities as well. They have, however, received some pushback from particularly, I think, the media to say, but we still want to see the connection with the recommendations. So as of this next report, they will do both. They will show both the recommendations that have been completed vis-a-vis also the activities that have been completed. So at this point, I don't know. But I can say that when it comes to activities, 304 is what they are tracking that the government has promised to implement, 304. And out of the 304, all had started or been completed except 101. So we're 2/3 into implementation. 101 had not yet commenced. Yeah. But let's see now their next report, how they report that. They will do both activities and recommendations.
You think the next report it will come out, because this one doesn't come out very nice on the newspapers. Do you think the next, I mean, when you look at the political will, when you said 19 completed, 16 completed, 119 still, 92 still ongoing, doesn't come out very nice.
According to who?
It does. Now, I mean, I'm talking about public perception. I mean,
Wow.
people do.
Then we must do better. If all we care about is numbers and not the qualitativeness.
Well,
of
because
things,
people didn't know what the qualitative is.
Yeah.
I mean, so, for example, like you said,
and you know, we need to talk about that in terms of how we ingest information.
Yes.
Our consciousness has really changed. We've really become TikTokanized, put it that way.
Yes.
Where people just want to know the quick facts and so on.
Yeah.
But
and
we
have
to
the snippets.
That's true.
Yeah.
But we have to also resist and reject that.
Yeah.
Right? There are certain issues, and you know this, that have to be mastered.
Yeah.
We cannot TikTokanize it, right? So let's say, for example, the recommendations around witchcraft, you know, and how a civic education program must be rolled out in all of the Gambia, how we need to monitor that nobody is being called witches anymore. You know, when are we going to complete that?
Those are long-term issues.
Aren't they? Exactly.
Yeah.
So the fact that they have commenced, the commitment has already commenced, isn't that a good thing? Because one could equally say, you know, this is such a long-term issue, I'm not even going to start. But the fact that they commence, so for me, the fact that 263 out of 304 have commenced is huge.
Yeah, but that's given you know what actually it is.
And that's why we need more partnership with you, the media, for you to tell people what it is.
Yeah.
Now we hold CSO and media platform meetings in Tango, on the X Space. I've never seen you join.
Yes, I don't come often.
Why? We need these partnerships. Please help us explain to Gambians that what we're working on, some of them, much of them, actually, most of them are quite long-term, you know? And so a government's commitment to start it is actually something that is noteworthy, because it's so simple to just say, let's not start where, you know, this is going to take too long to complete.
All right. So let's go to the final subject on this issue, which is the issue of the reconciliation. I mean, I know that we are all focused on a lot of things, including we need to raise money, we need to send people to prison, but all of these things, we know they also have implications on the society at different levels. So one of the examples was when the TRRC started witch hunting, because ours, unlike other jurisdictions, ours is a very small society where just a releasing of a WhatsApp audio can make you a national celebrity, because everybody would hear it maybe in 24 hours. It's a small country. Now, when the TRRC started witch hunting testimonies in Jambu and in
Sibano.
Sibano, and so one of the things that happened was it came out that within the communities themselves there were people who had collaborated with the so-called witch doctors and the security officers who came into those communities. And so half of the community blames the other half because during the testimonies this issue came out. And so the TRRC had to hold a special conversation there to sort of try to diffuse that tension. What I'm trying to get at is that justice or conversations around human rights violations do also have their own implications on the society. I mean, are you going to have a separate plan, separate whole issue for reconciliation, and how long would that? I remember I wrote a story about TRRC to say reconciliation is on the back burner.
Yes. Well, you know, all paths lead to reconciliation. right? So transitional justice, some will tell you, everybody takes it for what it is. Some tell you that it's about justice, some tell you it's about human rights, and some tell you it's a peace study. But I think that it is actually a peace building process. That if you repair those that are most damaged, and you punish those that are most responsible, and you ensure that the institutions who outlive people do better, and that the laws that guide people are better, that ultimately you put yourself in a path of greater social cohesion and sustainable peace as well. So all these efforts are contributing, I think, towards social cohesion in the Gambia. But it's not black and white, and it's not a linear process as well, right? And it is very complicated. So when you ask the how, the TRRC had that mandate, right? And I take every single platform to thank the TRRC commissioners, the managers, the staff, everybody. I think you did a fantastic job, and the Gambia can never ever repay you. But to also say that they even realized in their own mandate, Truth, Reconciliation, Reparations Commission, right, that when it comes to the reconciliation aspect, this is something that we're going to have to work on for a very long time.
Yes.
So one of the recommendations, unlike the Reparations Commission, which is ad hoc, prosecutions, which is ad hoc, is to establish a permanent, independent Peace and Reconciliation Commission. Because they understood that these issues of communal tensions, there needs to be an independent oversight outside of the community coming in with best practices, but working with the community for a very long period of time to resolve it, allow them to resolve it themselves, to be monitoring early warning, early tensions, and going in there with early response so that it never really escalates. So that's one of the recommendation areas that we have to work on. In 2024, the Ministry of Interior, with support from UNDP and the EU and the Peace Building Fund, developed a draft bill on the Peace and Reconciliation Commission, spoke to stakeholders, studied what we have in the region, particularly in Ghana. They're known to have quite good peace councils, they're called, and came up with a draft bill which Cabinet is going to be discussing to see how we introduce this, or if there's any other way in which we can work long-term, sustainably, forever and evermore on communal issues as well. Definitely. But one thing is for certain.
But is there going to be a long-term plan for this?
Yes, of course. Well, everything is a step, right? Our office is supposed to make sure that the structure is in place and maybe just support them their initial setup. But then ultimately, like you said, it's long-term, and our office is not meant to be long-term. So they will, by themselves, continue to work on their mandate. Got to make sure that we give them the right mandate, though, and the right powers to be able to do their mandate, and then you set them off. But it is very long-term, and, this
already you are touching things that are going to have implications on reconciliation or societal cohesion. As for example, I give you even...
Such as prosecutions?
Yeah. So, for example...
Or even reparations. In some places, some people say, oh, when I received reparations, the community thought that I was wealthy, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It is all true, but then I ask you, what should we do? Should we not give reparations?
No, but...
Should we not should we not prosecute? No. You do it anyway, but just as you were schooling me earlier, you do it in conversation. You do it and you say, I have to do it. This is my responsibility as a state. I cannot derogate on this, but we're doing it together. You have to understand why we must do it. Become thought leaders and shift narratives and shift the way society is thinking about certain issues. Because you can only understand that each society and each community will think about their own interest, right? But a state doesn't have that luxury. You have to think about all interests and balance as well. So, yeah. You have to give the reparations, and you have to explain to the community that this is the right thing to do, that the person had undergone serious rights violations, and this is a duty of a state to repair them. Just as if they were to be robbed or anything like that, they can sue. There's still pathways. I mean, we're using the same what should I say, notions of justice and implementing that at the end of the day. But it is not easy. And if at any point, any Gambian thought that this process was going to be easy, then it was never going to be easy. It was never going to be quick. It was never going to be cheap.
If we have because for reconciliation particularly, I'm more particular about it because I've seen other things, and other things seem very easy to me because the things we've been doing. I mean, we may be doing prosecution in a much larger scale now, but we still do prosecution. Okay? But reconciliation, so for example, when the TRRC was going to start reconciliation, the TRRC did so with, it's a truth, reconciliation, reparation. So they have to investigate and establish the truth. And when they started, we all realized, well, unlike other commissions, they investigate and now start hearings. TRRC was investigating and also conducting hearings. So the truth side of things took all the time and all the resources because it's complicated and complex, and they didn't have a lot of time. And so we saw most of what was happening was just some what they call reconciliation hearings, and which in themselves also created a lot of problems. I mean, you remember when they brought in Sana and Edward. And victims were like, what are you doing? I mean, these two people are perpetrators. They're mocking us on TV, you know? And so it became a big issue back then. And the same thing happens when you have two major, I mean, I had someone here who was complaining, was a victim of Sana Savali, allegedly, and was complaining bitterly about these incidents. And so the more we touch the past, the more wounds we reopen. And so I don't know if reconciliation should be a concurrent office currently. And
I'd say this, that it's a necessity, but it is a means to an end. It's not a destination. It's not a destination. It's something that you're doing in the everyday. That frustration that is being discussed and being lamented is absolutely necessary for reconciliation. And reconciliation is not linear. It's not like we've reconciled and that's it. We've reconciled today. Tomorrow we have another conflict. But does a community and does a country have the resilience to, no matter what, not break into civil strife? Are those structures in place? You know, that's what we, I think, need to focus on. Not on if we're all getting along perfectly together. That's absolutely impossible.
That's not
but
possible.
What is our resilience to never, you know, picking up machetes and killing each other, for example, or going into that kind of strife? And it's interesting you mentioned that same situation between Sana and Edward as well, because yes, I've also heard how it has gone from infuriating, but opening up that conversation even within the victim community. And I've equally heard some victims say, well, I guess it's a good thing, you know, I guess it's good for two people to forgive each other. That's good for them, you know. But it's my prerogative to forgive. I choose who I want to forgive. I've heard some victims say, I forgive, and I choose some victims say, I'm not ready to forgive, you know. Again, like I said, I don't think we are failing if I was to boil it down. I think just by virtue of going through all of these processes, it means that we are on it. We are continuing on it. And it's not something that is ever going to end.
But do you have a mechanism where you could at least get victims to talk, so that at least we know if we are approaching a boiling point or not? At least talking is good.
So this idea of reconciliation and social cohesion touches on our infrastructure for peace, which is both a TJ process, but it's even beyond the TJ process. Like I said, the Reparations Commission will come and go, and reparations hopefully we'll never have to have in the Gambia again, you know, because hopefully we'll never experience such human rights violations under a period. Similarly for the special accountability mechanism. But when it comes to issues of reconciliation, you know, of course, in the Gambia, we're just next door from NCCRM, where it's in the office of the Vice President, and they're monitoring early warning and putting in place early response. So these efforts are going on, you know, in the Gambia. Now, in the victim community that we speak of, the victims that and survivors that we're interested in during the Jammeh period, we at the moment very much are dependent on their associations to inform us, and they do. We have received a lot of information where victims have, we've been told that there are certain tensions in this place or in that place, and we have activated our usual infrastructure for peace, which is sent in the police there, inform the Office of National Security about the situation, you know, and try to calm that place down, yeah. But we do talk about peace in the Gambia as if it is a given, whilst it is quite unique, getting more and more unique and more rare than in other parts of the world. In the Gambia, the peace that we have, it doesn't take much to notice it. You just have to come to notice it.
Yeah.
It isn't a given, you know. These structures, like I said, institutionalizing peace is definitely a good idea, these early warning indicators and so on. But we have always had traditional ways of dealing with conflicts between communities.
Yeah.
And perhaps whatever we end up establishing can recognize that and use those same structures, because God knows they have worked for quite a very long time. They must be doing something right?
Yeah, and also broader governance infrastructure also has its own implications on peace. So, for example, land issues, these issues, that issues, all kind of issues.
Absolutely, yes. Peace is one of those things that is being tackled from, or being poked at from every single thing, right? Economic issues as well. As Rastaman once told me, a hungry man is an angry man, right? Yes. And that one, I think, also needs a lot of attention about the cost of living. Many of the frustrations I do hear more and more so, you know, since the COVID pandemic, have been linked to the cost of living, as opposed to frustrations really with the transitional justice process itself.
Yeah, of course, also a lot of people also do have their breadwinners, for example, killed or harmed in ways that they couldn't be effective or be helpful in feeding the families.
And whereas perhaps before they've been able to get by, now with increases in cost of food, in particular education, health, it's become even more difficult, and so the frustrations are higher. Yeah, we cannot isolate the economics from any process, really.
Yeah. So finally, I mean, we do have our money in the US. I mean, they're not giving us their money, but our money is there. I mean, the Potomac Mansion was sold, and that's supposed to be repatriated. Is it already in?
No, it's not already in. We are doing the follow-ups. We've been told that we'd be informed when the money is coming, but
we'll be informed when our money is coming. It's ours.
Yes, that's true, but it's not with us. All we can do is continue to ask for it, unless you have other suggestions on how we can get it. But it's not a forceful process, right? It's one that is bent on mutual cooperation and collaboration and partnership. So
it's 3.5 million. Or some said they are going to deduct taxes from it.
Well, it was a national process. Yes, there are fees that are incurred on it. I know the amount that has been mentioned to us as to be received is approximately 2.5 million.
2.5 million? Jammeh bought that house for 3.5 million.
Well, I'm not sure about the American system. I think we've also had this discussion prior with journalists, but that, I believe, will be transparent when the time comes, when we're informed about where the reductions were. But it's not a process, again, that it's a Gambian process. It's happened by the United States per their own laws, per their own processes. So all we get is what is repatriated. And even then, not repatriated to the government, but directly to the Reparations Fund.
Yeah, of course, we will have no problem with that if it's going to go to the victims, of course. All right, Ida, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate this, and hopefully we'll have another conversation when we're very close to the commencement of the operations of both mechanisms.
The Special Prosecutor's Office and the special
mechanisms?
The tribunal? The tribunal?
Yeah, both.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say that we really need to get some positive news, some more positive news about the tribunal. But also to assure that every time you're designing something, the intelligent thing to do is to think about your plan B, C, D, and E.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so long as there is a conviction that there will be no impunity for those crimes that were revealed by the TRC, I'm sure we'll find a way.
Yeah.
Because we really do need some serious funding for the tribunal to be operational. It's an international court.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. As the second woman as well. And yes, you need to do better.
Yes.
Last I checked, there are 1.4 million women in the Gambia. Women
true.
and girls.
That's true. I mean, I had one time I had Maddie send me a text to say, women are complaining. Your program is terrible. It doesn't invite women. And I said, okay, now I am going to think about this whole thing. I don't know, maybe also, it may also be by design, because like Wangari Maathai says, the higher you go, the fewer you find. I mean, in terms of women representation, decision making in the Gambia, and some of the key institutions in the country, which are the people I invite to my podcast, it's also few. I'm not saying that's an excuse. I'm just saying maybe I can be forgiven.
No.